Alright, people, say it with me. Foxsucks. What's that spell? Fox sucks. That was horrible. What's up, everyone? My name is Jet. Welcome back to an episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop, recapping the 2025 Goodyear 400. And in a surprise twist, leading only 10 laps, Denny Hamlin gets his second straight win in a row of 2025 and his fifth win at Darlington, his first since the 2021 Southern 500, and what was domination at its finest by William Byron. There was a point in time where William Byron, he held the record. He broke the record for most amount of laps to start a race at Darlington, certainly in the next gen era. But the heartbreak, he led 243 of 297 laps, swept the stages, absolute pure domination. But there was a shift. You could see that William Byron, even though he was out in front leading all the laps, it was always Ryan Blaney. That was a guy that seemed as though that there was only one guy that could challenge Byron for the win, and it was Ryan Blaney. The only problem is that Blaney would get runs, and then either a caution would come out at the bad time or a stage would end, and he would have to go to the back, and then drive his way up to the front, and then go to the back again. Finally, with around 50 or so laps to go, after the final round of green flag pit stops, where we really got to see two things. Number one, how good Blaney was. Number two, how dominant clean air was. Because as soon as William Byron, he first lost the lead position to Christopher Bell after the green flag pit stop cycles. Then he also lost it to Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick jumped both of them after pitting just a few laps earlier. So Byron was relegated back to third, and you could see it instantly that as soon as Byron lost that clean air, his car was not the same. It just was not the same at all. So even though Ryan Blaney had the better car, but it was that clean air that was so dominant, and everything just felt perfectly for Byron up until that final round of green flag pit stops and that final green flag run. Blaney, when I tell you, Blaney was eviscerating everyone with lap times 4 to 5 tenths faster every lap. He was just murdering the field, passing drivers left, right, and center. Got by Byron with these, got by Bell with these, and with around 8 or so laps to go, Reddick had, I believe, like a 2-second lead, and then within 3 or 4 laps, that was cut, that was gone. And with around 4 or 5 laps to go, Blaney would take the lead from Tyler Reddick, but the moment he did that, Reddick hit the wall, and that caused Kyle Larson to check up a bit. Bubba Wallace hits the back end of him, Larson spins into the wall. And then after that, we had that once again, another round of pit stops and Denny Hamlin's crew. Last week, it was Denny Hamlin, the driver, that won the race. This week, it was Denny Hamlin, the crew, that won him the race. He gained 2 spots while Blaney lost 2, fell back to third, and that was all she wrote. We went into NASCAR overtime. You had Hamlin on the outside, Reddick on the inside, and Reddick had a damaged car. That was basically given on a silver platter for Denny Hamlin to go on and win the race. Now, let's go back a little bit. I showed you that Larson clip. His front end was already damaged. How did that happen? Well, on lap 4, Deja Vu, racing in turn 2, I mentioned that in the pre-race show that was going to be a very critical spot. We could see a lot of slip-ups happen, and we saw just that. Larson slips off of turn number 2, slams to the inside wall, was out for, I believe, like 170-something laps. He was out for a long time in the garage, and it was actually kind of cool to see the old version of NASCAR. We got to see the pit crew work on the car behind the garage, to see them try and fix it up, patch it up, and everything like that. It was a nice flashback to the past. So I'm glad that NASCAR fixed the rules to where damaged cars can get back out on the racetrack. Let's take a look at the results. So Denny Hamlin wins, Byron in second, Bell in third, after Bell really didn't have the best car. He was even on the verge of getting lapped earlier in the race by Byron, so amazing pickup for him. Tyler Reddick had about a top 5 car, didn't think he would have a shot at winning, but had some great pace here today, and Ryan Blaney, tough break for him in 5th, but he did get his first top 5 ever at Darlington. Chris Buescher, quiet 6th place run for him, as well as Ross Chastain, who was outside the top 15 for most of the race. Chase Elliott in 8th. How about Ty Gibbs? Ty Gibbs, round of applause for Ty Gibbs, gets his first top 10 in God knows how long. Finally, a much needed nice run for him. And also Kyle Busch, 10th place run for him. Again, very quiet day. Austin Cindric in 11th. Zane Smith, good run for him in 12th. Logano in 13th. Todd Gillen and Daniel Suarez, another one from the track house that was outside the top 25 for most of the race, gets a top 15. Ty Dillon, great run for him, shows some good speed in the later ends of stage 2. Eric Jones in 17th, AJ Allmendinger, Noah Gragson, and Shane Van Gisbergen. I'm pretty sure this is his first top 20 so far this season. Bubba Wallace, he just had issues, was good early on at the beginning, but just fell off like a rock. Ends up in 21st. Cole Custer, Austin Dillon, Justin Haley, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. the top 25. Ryan Preece, another one that started out strong but just fell back big time. Cody Ware, 27th. Chase Briscoe, don't know what happened to him, but he just fell off like a rock in 28th. Michael McDowell and John Hunter Nemechek, the top 30. Then it's Austin Hill, 31st. Carson Hocevar, he spun a couple times, finishes in 32nd. Keselowski, he spun during the race, during the middle of green flag pit stops. He spun, lost a hub, and that was all she wrote for him having a good shot at having a good race. He did show some good speed right before that. All 3 RFK cars were up inside the top 10 before that round of pit stops. Riley Herbst, he was involved in a crash with Carson Hocevar near the end of stage 1. Alex Bowman, don't know what happened with him, but he had issues in 35th. Josh Berry, he got hit by Tyler Reddick coming off of turn number 2 on a restart. Reddick slid up, hit Josh Berry, and Berry spins into the inside wall almost exactly like Kyle Larson, who finishes in 37th, and JJ Yeley rounds out the field in 38th. So let's go over my thoughts on this race. This race, from a TV perspective, not good at all. I gotta say this with Fox, and I know we like to clown on Fox, but this was quite honestly one of the worst produced races I've seen from them in quite some time. Easily the worst race they've ever produced this year. I mean, if you're going to throw back, do it like how NBC did. When they did in stage 2, they had Ken Squire, Dale Jarrett, and Kyle Petty. That was a great way of a throwback to introduce, or to bring in some of the legends of the past. Or it was Ned Jarrett, I should say, I believe. Ned Jarrett and Dale Jarrett, my mistake. But that was a great way to kind of bring in the past and mix it in with the future, with the present. Fox, on the other hand, what they did is they brought in Kyle Petty, they brought in Richard Petty, and they brought in Greg Biffle. I'll be honest, the way how they produced it, they kept talking more about the stories about what's happening in the past. And I understand that, but there's a race going on. And they treated it, the whole crew, the entire race, up until that 50 lap to go stint to the finish, they treated this race like it was background noise. Like, you know how you just turn on TV, you just put it there, put on the race or put something as background noise while you're doing something more important. That's how I felt watching this race, that they just didn't care. They were more interested in about the story about Richard Petty and the window net that we've heard 100,000 times. And again, there's a place for that. But when you're talking about the race, when there's things happening in the race, talk about the race. That's what we want to see during the race coverage. You can bring that stuff or talk about this stuff during the pre-race, or if there's a caution period, something like that. But when there's action going on, talk about the action. I don't know, maybe this is just me being a bit nitpicky about it, but to me, it just felt that they didn't care at all. Again, if you want to do a throwback, do how NBC did it. When NBC, they had a throwback race, they did it perfectly. They had throwback fire suits, or throwback apparel on, throwback graphics. They really went all out. Fox just did it completely wrong. I mean, they didn't really show a lack of care at all. They focused more on just the history about it, which I understand that's an important aspect of it. But they focused way so much more on that and just didn't really care about anything that was happening with the race. Now, as for the race itself, because of their lack of care, this race from a TV perspective was not good. I know there are fans at the racetrack, like Taylor Kitchen said, this race was really solid. There was a lot of action that was happening mid-pack. And if you go on Max, yes. If you go on Max, go on the onboard cameras, you can see there was some racing. There was battles that was happening. But the problem is that Fox kept showing one car on the screen the entire time, or kept showing William Byron the entire time, which is like, go find battles, find something. At least with F1 in Japan, that race was god awful, but they try by showing something. Fox, you have battles. Show them. I don't care if it's 25th. Show me battles. Jeez, I cannot wait for Memorial Day weekend. We got what? We got about a month left, guys. Hang in there. Then we don't have to deal with Fox anymore. So there were comers and goers. But again, the issue is that it took such a long time. You would see passes prominently. You would see most passes that would happen at the beginning of the race or the beginning of a restart, or near the end of the stage, like 40, 50 laps near the end of the stage, you would start to see some passing. And that's because, again, not so much horsepower. The tires, although they need to wear out a lot more. I mean, it's still It's the same thing. It's like same story, different verses. Like the same thing that's happening over and over again. Not enough horsepower, tires are still too hard. Not enough horsepower, tires are still too hard. Now here's the thing, I'm not upset. Darlington, that can happen with Darlington where it can get spread out and you have a car that can dominate. It happens. I am not upset with Darlington. I still love Darlington. And this happens in racing. It can happen in racing where there's a driver that's just way more dominant than everybody else. But it was clear that there is still issues that need to be addressed that haven't been addressed, will never be addressed with this car. And again, we're going to have the same thing that's going to happen over and over and over again. So yeah, not really much else to discuss. There's not really much I can say about this race. I mentioned some of the drivers like Trackhouse. They started poorly, raced poorly, but somehow got some little wins. I mean, Chastain started 25th, finished 7th. You didn't hear anything about him. You then saw Daniel Suarez started 30th, finished 15th. Shane Van Gisbergen also started near the back and finished 20th. So Trackhouse started poorly, raced poorly, and somehow was able to get 3 somewhat solid finishes based on their perspective. I look at Blaney. I picked him to win the race. I always said that Blaney is fast. He is fast. He just needs something to go his way. And this was a race that sort of went his way. He again showed speed, showed pace, but just things did not fall in his favor. Ends up with a 5th place finish. Like I said, his first out of Darlington, but there is much more out of that 12 car. Him being 10th in points does not tell the full story. And when we go to next weekend is Bristol, Hamlin, he is really good there. You also look at Bell, really good there. Blaney, he can run well there. There are some interesting kind of characteristics in these last couple races that can carry on to Bristol, Hamlin, and Bell, specifically those 2 drivers, and specifically Hamlin on a roll. And we're going to Bristol next week. Guess who's the defending race winner? Denny Hamlin. So it is really 11 against the world at the moment, because if you're not a Denny Hamlin fan, you're probably not too happy about what's going on in NASCAR right now. Overall, if I were to give this race a rating, it was all right. There were good spots. There were comers and goers. Strategy was a bit interesting, but based on from a TV perspective, overall, it was all right. So I give it like a 6 out of 10. It wasn't great. It wasn't really good. It was okay. There were some moments, but again, the problem is that your rating will be adjusted based on what you were watching it by. I was watching it more or less from the onboard camera, so I saw way more battles. If you're judging it from a TV perspective, you probably would have thought this race absolutely sucked major ass, which, fair point. It did have a lot of dull moments, and that's normal in racing. You have that, but I felt like the rating is skewed depending on where you watched it from. If you watched it from the stands, you probably would have thought this was a great race. If you watched it on Max, probably thought this was good. If you watched on TV, you probably thought this race sucked. So yeah, the reason why, I got to give this a 6 out of 10 because 50 laps prior, not really much, but those last 50 laps, that stink between Reddick, Bell, Byron, and Blaney, that was fun. That was really fun to watch because you really didn't know who was going to win. I mean, Reddick, he had that edge, he had that advantage, had the gap. But it was Blaney that just kept charging and charging. It was like, ooh, could Blaney get there? So that part was fun. That's why I give it a 6 out of 10. Without it, it probably would have been a 4. But that was a fun stint. Got a feel for Blaney because, again, he comes oh so close or has a car that you know he is going to win. And then something happens that prevents him from doing just that. Because he had the lead. He had the lead. The race went at the palm of his hands for about 5 seconds. And he took the lead from Reddick. Next second, Larson's in the wall, cautions out. Oh, lost 2 spots on pit road. Yep, you're not winning this race. It's like, damn, can Blaney catch a break? But those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this race? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is Jed from MDK. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.